if we don't define what our ideal day looks like, we will never live it. But the thing is, when we do start defining it, it's amazing how quickly we can start to actually live it. This episode, I want it to be a little bit different. So you could listen to this when you're walking or driving, and then I want you to come back to it, and I want you to get a notebook and a pen, and I want us to work through something really powerful together and actually do it while you're listening to the episode, so that you actually do what I'm sharing, because it's such a game changer. So I'm really excited to get into it. Let me back up a minute. I had a meeting at the office this week. It was with somebody who I've known for many, many, many years. He's actually a friend of my dad's. We got chatting about all sorts of different things. But one of the things he was telling me was about 30 years ago, he ran a magazine. It was a personal development magazine, and he was interviewing a guy called Bob for the magazine. So he went to Bob's house to interview him, and they did the interview, and then afterwards Bob said to him, "Do you have some time? Do you want to go for some lunch?" And he said, "Yeah." So they walked outside, and then they walked over to his helicopter hangar, got in a helicopter and flew to lunch. They got talking, and so Bob said to Paul, the guy who I was with this week, he said, you've been interviewing me, and you're really, I can see you're a smart guy, but the car you're driving suggests that things perhaps aren't going the way you wanted them to be going. And he said, "So tell me, what does your ideal day look like?" Paul said, "I don't know." And he said, "Then you're never going to live it." As Paul was telling me the story, I was like, it was hitting me hard. And he said at the time, he just started thinking, wow, I need to think about this. And so he started, and he said, I think the other question Bob asked him was, what does your ideal house look like? He said he subsequently went and he made a list of 57 things he wanted in a house. And he also thought about how cool it was to be going to lunch in a helicopter, and thought that would be cool. And at the time, it was kind of like a far-fetched thing. But he started to get really clear on all this stuff, and Bob said, decide what you want, write it down. And I think Paul said it took him, I can't remember, 2 or 3 years until he had his pilot license, he had his own helicopter, and he was able to fly himself to lunch. He also got a house, and it ticked off 56 of the 57 things on his wish list. The thing that it didn't tick off was the sound of flowing water, so he bought some kind of fountain or something to make up for that. And when I was listening to him talk, it just reminded me of how powerful it is when we get clear on what we want, when we get intentional about what we want, because it's so easy for us to get caught up in the day-to-day, and for us to just get carried away, just doing things, but then not really fully living the lives we want to live. And like what Bob said, if we don't define what our ideal day looks like, we will never live it. And that's crazy. But the thing is, when we do start defining it, it's amazing how quickly we can start experiencing it, when we can start to actually live it. So I really wanted to kind of go through a process with you right now for us tapping into, what does your ideal day look like? What does your ideal week look like? What does your ideal year look like? What does your ideal house look like? What does your ideal relationship look like? We're not going to be going into necessarily all of those things, but I just think it's so important for us to really start thinking about it. I thought we could start with you writing down and just creating space to just think through, what does your ideal week look like? For me, I think this is easier than answering the question, what does your ideal day look like? Because for me, every day of the week's a little bit different. What I do on the weekends is different to what I do during the week. And my days of the week are just really different as well. So for example, for me, my ideal week is Monday through Friday, getting up with the kids, having time in the morning to play with them and to have fun alongside, the hard stuff like cleaning their teeth and getting them dressed for school and getting them ready for, all that stuff. Then taking them to school, taking time every day to meditate and to visualize, taking time every day to journal, taking time every day to learn or to read and to give myself that space, that permission to do that, taking time to either get outside and go for a walk or just be in nature, because so often I find that I just get sucked into, sitting at my desk and working, and then I don't get outside and I don't go for a walk. But when I go for a walk, it makes such a difference. This other concept that I recently heard about from Jay Shetty, it was about effective and efficient days, and knowing the difference and understanding the difference so that you can plan for both efficient and effective days. So basically, an efficient day would be where you're like rattling through your to-do list, you're like on it. Maybe it's like you're on a bunch of team calls, or you're on like loads of different calls. You're taking action, you're getting through that to-do list. And then there's other days, effective days. And an effective day might be, for example, like you go to the spa for the day and you get outside of your normal work routine and you go with a journal and a notebook and you work on your business or think about stuff, and you have clarity and you have a breakthrough, and that breakthrough is so big, or that idea is so brilliant, or the creativity that flows to you is so great. It's really powerful in itself that you gave yourself that space. I really, really like that definition. So for me, my efficient days, the days where I'm kind of like getting it done, are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So Monday is a me day where I don't really have calls and I'm working on stuff myself, but it's a day where I'm like time blocking. I'm blocking off what I'm doing in like different sections of time. So it might be 15 minutes for this, an hour for that, but it's blocked into my calendar. So I've got a lot of stuff that I'm going to get through. Tuesdays are a day where I have team calls and like do stuff with the team. And then Wednesdays, again, is a day where I try and not have so many calls and try and, again, get through a lot of things that I need to get done. So today is Wednesday and I am filming podcasts today. So I'm getting through my to-do list. It's going to be a very efficient day. In my ideal week, this is, because I have been saying this for a while and I have yet to fully embrace this and step into it. For me, on my ideal week, on a Thursday, it would be my effective day. And for me, I really want to join a spa because what a great business expense, and be able to go into a different environment where I can relax, I can take a journal, I can take my headphones, I can listen to podcasts, I can learn, I can, take my laptop even and like go through courses that I'm part of, and I can make time for learning, I can make time for journaling, I can make time for working on my business, because it's so important, but it's so easy to just not make the time for it. So Thursdays in my ideal week would be a day for that. Thursdays are, and have been for a long time, again, a me day, but so often they get swallowed up. So like in thinking about this, from having this conversation this week, I'm like, no, I'm going to rewrite my week again, and I'm going to fine tune it so it's more ideal. The other thing that I want to add in each week is a lunch date with Kellen, my husband, because I love it and I find it really, really, really helpful, especially when we meet up and we go for lunch, because we end up talking about stuff, and mostly it's in the day I'm talking about business stuff, and he's like my little coach, and he, we talk through stuff, and it just really helps me to process what's going on in my mind. And obviously it's fun and it's time for us to connect. So that would also be in my ideal week, and that honestly happens once in a blue moon right now. So I'm like, I need to change that. And then the other thing would be getting home at like 5:30 so that I can have dinner with the kids, and then we can have a little bit of playtime, reading time, and then bath time, bedtime, and then some time in the evening to hang out with Kellen. And then Fridays are my fun day. Casey, my eldest, just started in reception, so he's now in school 5 days a week, but Marley is only in preschool, so she doesn't go to school on a Friday. So Fridays are now my Marley fun day, and it's a day for me and her to spend time together doing really, really fun things. And then the weekend is family time for us to do fun things. And obviously, like, there are seasons with this, so there are going to be seasons, I know, where I am busier, but it's really empowering. So like, I have done this work obviously in the past because I already have a vision for my ideal week and like my Friday fun days and all the other bits. But again, like, sometimes hearing the question again, like when Paul said that question, what does your ideal day look like? It really got me rethinking about it all. And it got me thinking about, yeah, I really want to do this Thursday spa day thing, or it doesn't even have to be the spa. It could be just a Thursday to go and spend a day in the cafe, or, and also the lunch with Kellen once a week, or even just going home to have lunch with him or something. I don't know. But I think just adding in those extra bits. And so that's why I think it's always good to revisit this, because things change and then you just forget to do stuff and you just get into a routine, and then it's good to kind of come back to it and be intentional again. Oh, and the other thing that's on my list to do every week is like see a friend, because with 2 little kids and a business and all that stuff. It's so easy to go for months without seeing my, like, I'll just be honest about this. It was like easy for me to go months without seeing my friends, just because like life gets so busy. And while I give myself grace with all of that, I'm just like, actually, you know what, if I got a little bit more intentional, I'm sure I could figure out a way to see my friend like once a week. So I want to get more intentional about that. So what does your ideal week look like? What would be the most amazing ideal week? And just have fun writing it out and thinking through it, because once you do that and once it's on paper, then you can ask yourself the question, what can I start doing right away? What do I need to change or do differently to make the rest of it happen? And start adjusting, and even little tweaks in your week, it will make such a big difference. And then again, thinking about this in terms of like, what does a year look like? So for me, for example, when I got really clear on what my ideal year looked like, I started thinking, well, I want to take the school holidays off to be with the kids. And this year I've taken a lot of time off in the school holidays. I'm not taking the whole of the school holidays off, but I've taken a lot of time off, and I can only do it with being intentional. I have another friend who has her own business, and she took the whole of August off, I think, and they did some really fun stuff. But it only happens when you get intentional that I am going to do this. I'm going to make this happen, and this is where I want to get to. And then you can just build your way up to getting there. But like Bob said, if we don't decide what our ideal year looks like, we're never going to live it. So what does it look like for you? What do you want? Like, for example, when do you want to go away? How often do you want to go away? This is why I feel excited to revisit it, because me and Kellen decided that we wanted to do kind of one, like something fun on it. So we have a motorhome, and so we wanted to do like one trip a month. We have not done one trip a month. And again, it's like, it's because we've forgotten to be intentional about it. But if we get intentional, we will do it, and it will be fun. So yeah, what does your ideal year look like? And then just thinking of other stuff, like I said before, like what does your ideal house look like? So for me, this is something that I have been doing for many, many, many years. In fact, I've always dreamt about building my own house, always, like ever since I was like, I think a teenager. And I've always thought about what it would look like. As a teenager, I would spend like in the evenings, I would fall asleep wandering around my house in my head, and I knew where like everything was, and I would just walk around the house, and it's so powerful when you do that and you start thinking about what you want. The really crazy part for me is that probably about 18 months ago now, we'd been on the search for a new house for about 2 years, and we've had one house and it fell through and all this stuff, and then this one popped up that we ended up buying. But the house, the way it's positioned, the way the drive is, and certain things were like exactly how I visualized. And in my visualization when I was a teenager, I even visualized there being this like old school lamppost. There is an old school lamppost on the drive. And I also imagined there being like a little fountain in front of the house. There was a fountain in front of the house that we bought. Like, I'm just like, this is weird. It's like I've been here before. But I think that's the power of the mind when you get intentional, the power of the universe or whatever it is. So getting clear on like, what does your dream house look like? Like Paul, he wrote down 57 things, and he said to me something like, you know, he hadn't really thought about it before Bob asked him that question. But then he got writing, and then he started writing, and then he just realized there was more things he wanted, and there was like, you know, all these things, and he just wrote it all out, and it's so powerful. And he said like when he was sat there with all the things that he wanted, he just said it was, you know, I think it was just like a really surreal moment. I actually want to show you something. I didn't plan to do this or prepare for this, but I just saw it in my cupboard before. I want to just go and grab my goal folder. It was the first ever goal folder I created when I was a teenager. And I want to show you some stuff because I put in like all the house stuff, house inspiration of things I want in a house. Like, let me just one sec, let me get it. So if you're watching this on the YouTube version, you will see what I'm talking about. Hang on a sec. The noise you just heard clattering was the bottle of perfume that just fell out because I had a bottle of perfume in here of how I wanted my life to smell when I was successful. So this is my goal folder, and this is like designs of houses that I liked, and I also really wanted to be able to build like a tree house, and really interestingly, we have been talking about building a tree house down at the new property that we have, and it's got like this big pond, and in the middle of the pond is an island, and we're going to put like a little bridge across to the island, and it's going to be, Casey called it Pirate Island. This is stuff that I have been dreaming about since I was like, I don't know, like 15, 14 or something. So yeah, like, and like also I was in here of like places that I wanted to go, and also like bank statements of like adding lots and lots of zeros. This is £136,797,250. It's such a fun exercise to just stop and get intentional about what you want. And I think starting with, what does your ideal day look like? What does your ideal week look like? Just starting there is so powerful. Sometimes we don't even have to change that much. And sometimes we do. Like, I mean, in the past, I've had to make some big changes. And what I do know is really, really powerful is getting intentional about it, because we live one life and we need to make it as amazing as we possibly can. And we can only do that when we get intentional about what amazing means for us. What does your amazing week or an ideal week or whatever word you want to use, but what does that look like for you? And I find the more that I remind myself of this, the more that I listen to this, this messaging that I'm sharing with you and these conversations, and the more I have conversations with other people about this stuff, the more I up level my life, because I start to tune in more with myself and with what I want and start getting clarity on that, and I start writing it down, and then my life starts to like change. And I've experienced it over and over and over again. I've had conversations with so many other people who have been exactly the same, and Paul is one of those people that I had a conversation with this week. So I really hope that this has inspired you, and I really hope that you take a minute to hit pause on the podcast, get a notebook and a pen, and just think through, like, what does your ideal week look like, and write down what that looks like for you right now. And then just keep revisiting it and keep tweaking and optimizing it as you go, so that you can just optimize your life and make it amazing. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this. I really hope it's inspired you. If you ever need anything, or if you have any questions, you can always get in touch. You can always email, and you can also send a WhatsApp. So I'll make sure all the details for that are below. I'll also link the YouTube episode if you are not watching this on YouTube and you want to go and see me flicking through my goal book or my goal folder. And there's some other goods for you in the show notes. So we've got some really cool freebies and different things to help you to build a wildly successful business and live the most amazing life. So definitely check that all out, and I will see you next time for another episode of the She Means Business Show.